The different parts of a ship have different names. Above the waterline, you will find the mast, the funnel, the bridge, and superstructure. The part of the ship that sits in the water is called the hull, and the part of the hull that's below the waterline, well, that's what we are focusing on today. The very bottom of the ship is known as the keel. In older ships, this was generally the first part of the ship to be built and was essentially the backbone of the ship. The supporting ribs onto which the hull was built were attached to the keel, and the ship was built up from there. These days, with prefabrication techniques being used, ships are built quite differently. Various sections or blocks are built separate from each other and welded together to form the ship. In some cases, such as Cunard's Queen Anne, the whole forward part of the ship was built at a different location to the aft. The forward end was launched and then towed to another yard to be joined together. The distance between the waterline and the keel is known as the ship's draft. The size of the draft is important for multiple reasons. Firstly, the part of the ship that's underwater is critical for the ship's stability. Too much weight above the water and not enough below can make the ship unstable or prone to listing. In worst case scenarios, ships can capsize, like the Mary Rose did all the way back in 1510. An example of a passenger ship where the centre of gravity was too high was the Hamburg America liner Imperator. When first put into service, the ship had a noticeable listing problem and attracted the rather unfortunate nickname of Limperator. To overcome this problem, the ship was returned to her builders to have remedial works done. This included removing marble fixtures and fittings in favour of lighter alternatives, and replacing heavy furniture with wicker. Engineers also poured concrete into the double bottom of her hull to further lower the ship's centre of gravity. The depth of the draft also has an impact on where the ship is able to visit. The ocean liners of old had deep drafts. This was often due to them needing large mechanical spaces required to run the ship's reciprocating engines, as well as cargo space that was also required for them to be profitable. A deep draft also helped give these ships good seakeeping qualities, making them very suitable for running line voyages, but it often made them impractical in a cruising role. So let's look at a modern cruise ship to get an idea of what lies beneath the waterline, just from the markings on the hull. The markings here indicate the placement of the bow thrusters, while these ones indicate where you'll find the stabilizers. Bow thrusters, and on ships that have them, stern thrusters, allow the ship to maneuver under their own power, and take the form of a tunnel that runs through the ship's width with a propeller in the middle. These items need to be below the waterline in order to be effective, and the markings show where they are located to ensure tugboats and other craft do not cause damage or interfere with their operation. Stern thrusters are generally only installed on ships with traditional propellers rather than rotatable pods. Ships with propellers have a rudder below the waterline, which is also used to turn the ship when it's underway, but the bow and stern thrusters improve their maneuverability in port. Many modern-day cruise ships have been built with Azipods. These sit below the waterline rather like giant outboard motors and can rotate to turn the ship as needed. These take the place of the traditional propellers and the rudder, and these pods can be huge. For example, the Queen Mary 2s each weigh the same as Boeing 747 jet. Yep, you heard that right, and QM2 has 4 of them. Another very noticeable feature is the bulbous bow. These large bulbs help with the hydrodynamic efficiency of a passenger ship and improve the stability of the vessel. And in port, when the ship is stationary, you can often see the top of the bulb poking out above the waterline. Other things found below the waterline are the intake and outlet pipes for the collection of water and discharge water, and the ballast. If you're interested in learning more about these, please let me know. The final thing you'll probably have noticed about the ship below the waterline is it's a different colour to the rest of the ship. Being in water all the time means that ships attract an array of wildlife and marine growth that over time build up and cause the ship to become less efficient. To prevent this, ships are painted with anti-fouling paint designed to discourage marine growth. This paint has traditionally been red due to the natural pigment of many of the anti-fouling agents. On old wooden sailing ships, thin sheets of copper were used to protect the wood and act as an anti-fouling agent. In modern times, the anti-fouling paint has been changed to make it less impactful on the environment. So now we know what you'd see below the waterline on the outside of a ship, but what about what's happening on the inside of a ship below the waterline? As you'll know, most passenger areas on a ship are located above the waterline. This means that there can be portholes, windows and balconies allowing for natural light into the passenger spaces and providing easier ventilation. So what about areas below? Well, depending on the ship, the areas below deck will house the engines and the associated machinery, water treatment plants, desalination plants, ballast tanks, fuel bunkers, cargo holds, storerooms, and crew amenities. If you're looking for the ship's stash of champagne and caviar, it's a good chance it's below the waterline, as the massive holds and cold storage areas are located in this area. Many ships have special elevators that offer direct access to these stores, linking them to the galleys. This video is brought to you by me and my new book, The Evolution of the Passenger Ship. In The Evolution of the Passenger Ship, we've brought years of research together to create a book that takes you on a journey from the earliest sailing ships right the way through to the modern behemoths that we see today. The Evolution of the Passenger Ship is available at all good bookshops, and if you buy a copy, you help us by supporting the channel. Thanks so much, and now back to the video. Now, I said earlier that most passenger areas on ships are located above the waterline, but there are some exceptions. One of the most interesting is the Blue Room lounges located on the Ponant ships. These lounges have a view under the water with the idea of being able to provide a connection with the ocean around you. You'd also quite often find some passenger spaces at or below the waterline on the ocean liners of old, and even some quite recent ocean liners. The QE2, for example, which retired in 2008, had a passenger swimming pool and gymnasium located on 7 deck on the waterline, and there were no portholes on this deck. So there you have it. Next time you travel on board a cruise ship, you'll have a bit of a better understanding as to what's happening under the waterline. A huge thank you as always to our fantastic channel members and super thanks contributors. Your support is what makes these videos possible. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please don't forget to give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for further maritime history and cruising content. Thanks once again for watching, and until next time, I hope to see you on board.